How many times do you go through a new technology and it's an afterthought and accounting knows about it when the bill comes? They're like, oh, we're getting new technology. Thanks for letting us be involved in this. We're going to an ERP selection. They needed to be able to tell them, hey, these are the type of reports we need. Prove to us that your system can make these reports to a certain extent so that we can see and we know that we can still do business this way. And if not, then we're going to have whole nother set of questions come up about how the way we do business and capture the data. Hey, I'm Christy Barber. I'm a finance and accounting tech specialist. Today is a video that is near and dear to me as I've been an accountant for over 20 years and how many times the accounting department gets forgotten when it comes to technology. So today I want to really talk through hey, all the things that go on and how the accounting department gets forgotten and how you as an accountant in your department can learn to speak up when it comes to technology and be able to build your department to where it needs to be. The first step to changing this narrative of the accounting department being forgotten is to start talking about it. So I'd love for you to comment below and let's get the conversation started to hearing what you're experiencing in your department and what others in this industry are experiencing as well. As always, we got to start from the beginning and determine why the accounting department is always ignored. One of the main reasons that the accounting department's often forgotten is because there is so much lockdown in there. There's data that can't be shared within the organization. A lot of the processes are very siloed because it's just particular to the accounting department, even though there's certain places where it does touch other departments, or you have other departments kind of taking care of some of those processes before they touch the accounting department. One of the main things I hear is the accounting department is not collaborative. And while I take offense to that sometimes, because we can be highly collaborative when there is rules in place that everybody's following so that we are compliant and we're following the various regulations that have to stay in place based on industry. Remember, the accounting department pays you. And if we don't have these good processes and if we're not collaborating with you, you're not going to get paid. And a lot of times small businesses are kind of, shooting from the hip here and there. And if that was the case and the collaboration wasn't there, you might get paid in January, you might get paid in September, or you might not get paid at all because there wouldn't be a particular process in place to be able to make sure that this happens. Most times accountants are head down in the department. They ride and stay in this particular lane that is full of compliance, full of regulations, full of specific processes to the jobs that they are doing. And because of that, they aren't as vocal when it comes to new technology because they aren't involved in a lot of the conversations that operations may be having, or quality or sales or whatever that looks like. So by letting them be involved in these major decisions, you are giving them the voice that they need. And overall, it's going to give you better data points as well when it's coming from the accounting department. You may also have departments that are doing some accounting tasks that shouldn't be, and it's just been the company has been doing that because that's the way they've done business for so long. And it's a good way to start to let the accounting department voice more of what should be, and then adopting to better practices, not best practices, but better practices when you're getting all of this tech put in. How many times do you go through a new technology and it's an afterthought and accounting knows about it when the bill comes? They're like, oh, we're getting new technology. Thanks for letting us be involved in this. And they should have been involved from day one. And what are ways that you can start allowing your accounting department to be more involved as you're going through these big decisions? I've been a part of multiple tech conversations, implementations, etc., where accounting wasn't involved or where they were slightly involved, and you got hey, yeah, it'll do all you need it to do. You don't need to see the software at all. You'll just, log in and do your work the way it is. And then that leads to a lot of problems. And we want to make sure that that doesn't happen for your business, because the last thing you want is for your accounting department to get upset in any given way. And personally, as an accountant, I hate not being involved on those major decisions as well, because certain departments, while they are the drivers of new technology, everything affects accounting at the end of the day because it is the cornerstone of your business. There are a handful of areas where the accounting department gets neglected. And let's walk through some of the main ones that I start to see over and over of where the accounting department gets neglected, forgotten, and all the things in between. One of the main areas that I see as being a big gap is not letting the accounting department list out the requirements that they need the new technology to do. This leads to gaps in reporting. It leads to errors. It leads to certain particular unique things that the company does that the accounting department is responsible for, like transfer pricing. How are we calculating it? How are we calculating currency exchange and all of these little things that could come in that, yes, other departments could be aware of it, but if the accounting is forgotten on that, those are big things that when a new system is put in that could be forgotten. And if they are forgotten, then it's kind of like throwing money off the roof or, flipping your desk over and being upset that you're having to go back and do something that now there's even more processes than what you originally had, as well as it giving you more process, and it also doesn't give you the ROI back that you need, especially from the accounting standpoint. Another one is compliance risk. How many times is the accounting department have to run audits and they're looking at various things? And how many times does a company as a whole just put all their faith inside the piece of technology that, it'll hit all of our compliance needs? And while a piece of technology can do that, there are certain compliance and regulations that come into play based off the data points that are put into the piece of technology. So a good example could be GAAP accounting. Yes, while most US based software does take care of GAAP accounting, there are softwares that don't always do that. QuickBooks meets it to a certain point, but then there's still gaps in the GAAP compliance parts of it. If you are looking at a company and you're overseas, you have to make sure that you're hitting those specific regulations as well. And you look at PCI compliance. How are you storing credit cards? Are you compliant on the site? There's a whole bunch of different regulations that come into place that you need to make sure that when you are selecting software that you are writing those up, because if you're not, then it causes a whole bunch of other problems if you were to get audited in the future. And while compliance can often get overlooked, the biggest part comes down to reporting. How often is it that the stakeholders and the major decision makers call up accounting and say, hey, I need you to run this report. I need it to have these specific data points in there over this time period, etc. If those requirements haven't been captured ahead of time, then these reports can't be made efficiently. Yes, out of the box, most of the technologies will hit those major reports that you need. Hey, I need an AR report, an AP report, a P&L, etc. But there are very specific reports that companies have, and you need to make sure that your software that you are purchasing can make those reports for you, because otherwise it's back to Excel and you're having to hand build all of these. And what a waste of time that is when you're spending millions of dollars on a new solution that is supposed to continually move you into the future. So I had a client that was going through a process development earlier this year that I was helping them with. They already knew which software they were moving to, but they hadn't built out any of their accounting yet. They were very complex in 7 different countries, more than 7 currencies that they were working with. And the biggest part came down to their reporting because of how they do business, how things get moved from one warehouse to another, how are they moved inter-country between entities and all of that. And so when it came down to some of their intercompany transactions and those reports, we had to make sure that when we were writing out these processes and really gathering what those data points had to be, that it was very, very clear. So when they did go to choose, they were going to an ERP selection, they needed to be able to tell them, hey, these are the type of reports we need. Prove to us that your system can make these reports to a certain extent so that we can see and we know that we can still do business this way. And if not, then we're going to have whole nother set of questions come up about how the way we do business and capture the data points. So again, it's very important to understand those types of reports that your company needs, even though they sound simple and the vendor is like, yeah, we do these reports all day long. You need to make sure that they can prove it to you. Even if it says, hey, this would be a customization. Good. At least I know there's some customization involved to get me to where I need it to be. And always ask references as well. hey, do you have a client that's made some similar reports to what I'm doing? Can I go talk to them? So, last but not least, looking at the morale of your employees in the accounting department. How many times new technologies come into place and nobody's been told about it? There wasn't a good communication plan. The accounting department wasn't involved. Like I said, there wasn't that collaboration to determine what is the best fit. And while most of your employees in there, you probably have Joe and Susan and Robert that have been with the company for 10 plus years and may have been even some of your very first hires, they have all this great knowledge about what your company does and what your accounting department needs. And it is your job to help guide them along the way to looking at a future state of things when you're selecting a software. The wisdom and understanding that they have of your data points really helps determine what is going to be the best fit for the software as well as all the other departments. And so being able to keep up the morale of this department is extremely important because it usually has low turnover, and these people are going to probably stay with you another 10, 15, 20 years, and you want to get them as involved as possible. It doesn't need to be every detail, but it needs to be some basic collaboration here and there and involvement in various meetings. It doesn't have to be everybody, but you need your major subject matter experts involved to be able to speak to what their daily job looks like.